Welcome to the Tim Castle Live Show, where we meet courageous people doing inspirational things around the world. In today's episode, I had the pleasure of talking to Maria Paula Oliveira, who is Chief Innovation Officer for MENA at EY. Now, MP, as she likes to be called, is certainly courageously going after her goals and making it happen. MP is a world of possibility in a room full of no's. She's someone who I can tell, if you have MP leading your team, it's all about possibility and solutions and overcoming the obstacles. There isn't really a no in her world. She's going to figure out how to get through that, how to innovate, how to strategize. And that's what she shares in this podcast today. There's so much value here in the way that she breaks down a problem, in the way that she develops courage, and she'll go through her courage framework with you, but also just how she's applied a strategy to her life, her career, and how she's used that to accelerate. Her story is amazing. I mean, she started off in Brazil. She's gone to Australia. She's worked in multiple continents and countries around the world. She founded 2 companies in Silicon Valley. She's worked in Singapore and now in Dubai, heading up the region as Chief Innovation Officer. So she's going to talk you through the highs and the lows, but also how you can go into the world and face adversity and take it and play it to your ultimate advantage. How you can adapt to situations, you can look for the opportunity. And I really think in these times right now, MP's message is something that you all need to hear. So we all need more MPs in the world shining a light, and she really does that. Her motto is work hard, play hard, and really focus in on how you can infuse joy into every single day so that you're not getting to the end of your life and then expecting to play hard. So really listen closely to MP's message. I think you're going to enjoy it. Take it away, MP. MP, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. It's all about finding courageous people doing inspirational things, and you're certainly doing that as Chief Innovation Officer of MENA at EY. And yeah, thank you for coming on and giving us your time.
Sure, Tim. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm super pumped and excited about what we're going to discuss today. Let's kick things off with my first favorite question. What is your motto and mantra, and how do you apply it to your daily life?
Okay, so that's interesting because I heard some of your previous episodes and I saw that you're asking this question, so I was thinking about it. And I have a few, but I think the one that I like the most and I live my life by the most is work hard, play hard. And I love that because it starts with the work. It doesn't start with the play. And I think that has to do with the sense of you having to do the work so you can earn the play, you can earn the pleasure, you can earn the fun. And so the work hard for me, it has to do about showing up, showing up for life, showing up for the things that you want to do, showing up completely. And it's hard. A lot of times it's hard, no matter how much we like it. I love the work, the actual job and work that I do, but I don't like everything about it. I don't like it all the time, but I absolutely love it. And I love all other things about my life. I love having a dog and I love having a son and I love living in Dubai. But a lot of times it's hard. So one thing doesn't exclude the other. And then the play hard part has to do about you also being intentional about the things that brings you joy in life. So it's not about partying hard, but it's about having this notion that you you have this life, you have this journey. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. So it's not only, oh, I'm gonna work 60 years of my life and then I'm gonna enjoy. Or I'm going to work 5 days of the week and then thank God it's Friday, thank God it's the weekend. And here sometimes in the Middle East, because we work from Sunday to Thursday, sometimes people say, oh, thank God it's Thursday. I'm like, oh my gosh, that doesn't make sense as a lifestyle. You're suffering 5 days or having 5 days of things that you don't enjoy. Then you can have 2 days of things that you truly enjoy. That doesn't add up. Or you can work 60 days of your life and then you're going to travel and then you're going to retire and then you're going to enjoy your life. That doesn't make sense. So that's why I like this mode of work hard, play hard, because it brings this balance about the effort that you make, but also being intentional about enjoying the ride.
Yeah, I think that is a very appropriate motto and mantra for you. Having done my research on you, I see that you definitely do infuse joy into every single day, and also do have that journey in mind. What would you say, with that in mind, then, is the best piece of advice that you've received when you're thinking about, if you're someone who's got to choose between career and doing kind of everything that your heart desires? What's the best piece of advice that you'd give to someone that's torn in that dilemma?
Oh, that I would give to somebody?
Hmm.
Okay. I thought that I had been given. So that I would give to somebody. Um, it's really interesting because the fact, and I'll circle back, but the fact that I really love what I do at my work, which is around corporate innovation and transforming companies, it makes it such a big part of me, but a part that brings lots of joy, brings lots of fulfillment, brings lots of challenge, growth, self-development. So I really find that when you can identify with what with that you work, it makes for a better life, because then you have a purpose. The work, it's not only what is bringing you money
Hmm.
and bread to your table, but it's actually something that is working on your interests to develop yourself as a human being. So it's a bit of a jargon nowadays to say, oh, you should work on something that you're passionate of. But I heard Steve Jobs saying recently. Well, I a recent I recently heard something that he said. If I heard him recently, it would be really awkward. But
It
I
can
recently
happen.
heard an interview. Yeah, exactly. It's like I became a medium and I'm talking to the technology. But no, so I recently heard something that he said, which is, why do you need to have passion for what you do? And I think it circles completely back to what I said first, because it gets hard. It gets really hard. It gets hard when you're in corporation. It gets hard when you're an entrepreneur. It gets hard on startups. It gets hard as a house parent. It gets hard all the time, just because life was designed like that. Life was designed for the hardship to make you grow. So, and life is designed for growth. So if you are not passionate, then you can't get through it. You can't see it through, because you just give up. So finding something that really connects with yourself, that gets you excited and takes you through the hard excitement, and the joy and the fulfillment you get from it, takes you through the hard times. That's what I would say. There is a writer called Mark Mason,
Mental.
that Manson, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, Mark.
that's right.
And he talks about choosing your. Can I swear a little bit?
You may. You may.
Okay, all right. So talks about finding your shit sandwich. So what is the hard part that you're willing to go through? So when I was working I was a co-founder of two startups, and I could not go through the hard part of the financial insecurity because of the circumstances of my life. I was the sole breadwinner, or the main breadwinner, and I had a newborn child. So I couldn't get through that. So
So
then I
break that down
decided,
a bit. That was because the startup was a startup, so it wasn't well funded, or when you join a startup, you're going to have to take a pay cut in some respect to have that journey. Is that what you mean by
so
financial?
can I make it a long story short?
Yeah, yeah, sure, yeah.
Okay. So I was raised in Brazil. I was born in the US, but raised in Brazil, and I lived there for the first 32 years of my life, and then the last from 18 to 32, I was working in the corporate world. Then I got tired of the corporate world, took 1 year sabbatical, and then after that, I decided to relocate to the US, taking advantage of being a US citizen. And I went to the Silicon Valley because I wanted to learn about startups and I wanted to join an early stage startup. So an early stage startup is nothing more than a group of 3 to 5 people that have an idea and are searching for funding, are searching for employees, are searching for clients. That's what I was doing. So we basically didn't have a pay. So I was living out of my
Right.
savings, which I had already depleted a lot on my sabbatical. So then we were just this 5 co-founders that were trying to put this company forward. We had one investor who promised he would invest in January. Come January, he didn't put the money. Come February, he didn't put the money. And then January, I found out I was pregnant. So we were going through all the things about like starting a family and then having no money, you know? And so all of that financial insecurity was something that an year after that, when I had my son and I had to make other decisions in life, I couldn't stomach. So then I decided to go back to the corporate world. And when I was in the corporate world before, I couldn't take anymore the politics, the drama, the games, the bureaucracy, and all of that. But then when I came back to the corporate world, I chose that was uh, less stinky a shit sandwich than the financial insecurity. Okay, so I learned, I was like, okay, those are the rules of the game. I can play by these rules, and I'm not going to complain that those are the rules because I know the other side, and the other side's not working for me anymore. It doesn't mean that's never going to work, but it's not working for me anymore. So then I went back to the corporations where I've been for the last 6 years, and I'm thriving because I know the rules of the game and I know how to get through them. And those are the types of pains that I'm willing to endure.
Got it. So when
Okay.
you noticed your life moving down a different direction, you got pregnant and then there was financial issues with the startup, how quickly did you change your mindset? And was it sort of an instant flip, right? Rules of the game have changed. I therefore need to go and do this. And I'm comfortable with that because what is deeper to me or what is more important to me has now forced me down that route. And therefore I can win at this game. Or was it sort of,
Mm.
did it like, I'm just thinking if there are people out there listening that are perhaps about to do that or are facing a situation where, especially in times like this, where you've got COVID-19 and they're perhaps being made redundant and they didn't want to go back to the corporate world, but you something in you changed. So you were able to get yourself into the right headspace to be able to do that and thrive as well.
Yeah. I wish it had been that fast and that easy, but it was not. It was a bit more lengthy and a bit more complicated because there were too many things at play. So
Right.
I was with my ex-husband, and at the time we were trying to make it in the US, trying to make it in California, in the Silicon Valley specifically, which is a very competitive environment. And then I was pregnant, and then on top of that, so the sabbatical that I mentioned, we did the round the world tour trip. So we spent 1 year traveling. So we had gone through basically all our funds, and this idea that I had that I was quite successful in Brazil as a professional, that I would come in the valley and be the star of the valley and would find lots of opportunities. That didn't happen. So, but that all took some time. So we stayed there 2.5 years, and we left. So we got there in May 2013, and we left in end of 2017. And through the time, then in 14, I got pregnant. Then I had my son, and I tried a second startup, but then another financial crisis hit, and the startup was related to Brazil, so it impacted our funders in Brazil, the investors, and that that uh, transition happened over time.
Mm.
It happened when, and I remember the moment it happened very clearly because I was really upset when this financial crisis hit Brazil in 2015, and the investor in Brazil said they couldn't invest in US dollars anymore because their currency had massively devaluated overnight, and they couldn't support the US operation anymore. And I remember sitting down on the floor and laying on the carpet and crying because all I wanted to do was have a nice work, a decent work that I could support my family, that I could find the fulfillment and the joy that I find at work. I just wanted to work. I was not asking for anybody to give me anything. And in that moment, I had this realization because I started asking, like, life, like, why is this happening to me? God, life, or whatever you believe. Like, why is this happening to me? Like, I'm a good person, like, and I'm just asking to find work. And then I realized two things. That either there was a reason for why that was happening to me, but it was beyond me to identify the reason, because who am I to try to understand the wishes of God or life or universe or anything? So who am I to try and understand? Or there wasn't a reason. And then, like we say here, we say halas. It's like, all right, it's done. There's no reason, there's no reason. Okay? Either way, there was only one thing for me to do, which was to get up and work, which was to do the hard work part. Okay? So the very next day, I sat up on my computer. I dressed up for work. Nice. In the beginning, before you started recording, so we were talking about dressing up and how it changes your mindset. I dressed up for work with shoes, high heel shoes, okay, inside my house with my 4-month-old baby crawling on the background, okay.
You went for it, yeah.
And I sent applications and resumes and network contact to 40 people and people/companies. So I made a list. I was like, who I know everywhere, including in Brazil, including in Singapore, including all over the world that I
went global.
And I said, yeah, I went global, and I said, I need to find a job. I'm just going to show up. One of these people was a former colleague from Brazil who I knew was with the same company that I was working before in Brazil that I left because I was sick and tired of the corporate world, and I was sick and tired of that particular company after 9 years working for them. And I said, hey, how is it going? I hear you're in Singapore. And he's like, oh, MP, we need somebody with your skills here. I was like, oh, really? Well, I'm quite good here in the Valley, but tell me more. and then it's like, no, I just started our strategic planning, and there's nobody with your methods around strategy and innovation and project management and process. Would you consider coming to Singapore? I know you're in California and all that. Would you consider? I was like, yeah, if you have a good offer. but then we.
So
we
even in that moment, you still played it out. You didn't reveal all the cards. You kept.
Well, I had to play by the rules, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was like, okay, if this is what it is what it is. And the guy's a friend of mine. So, but I wanted to be. I wanted to go for what I wanted,
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to go for any job. I wanted to find a job that would be highly enough paid for me to provide my son with a good life and my family and all of that. So then we started talking, and then his offer came. And then it was an offer to move countries once again, to move from the US to Singapore, and then to go back to the same company that I had left before.
So full circle. Wow.
So full circle, but on a spiral, because I was not coming to the same company in Brazil, to the same position that I was before. I was coming to the same company in Singapore after having done my round the world trip, after having done my what they call round of duty in the Silicon Valley. I was going to a much higher position, to a much higher salary in Singapore. Okay, so but the part that was most interesting to me was how much of my ego I had to put down on my pocket to go back to the same company. It's like I I didn't make it in the valley, and I have to kind of go back to doing what I know and to people that I know and to a business that I know, so I can jumpstart again, because I
Mm.
felt like life was really dragging me down. I was like, okay, if this is what we got to offer life, this is what I'm gonna take.
And what were there any tools and tips that you had to put your ego back in kind of check? Because obviously that's quite a hard thing to do when your brain is telling you all of that stuff like, oh, it's going backwards, or you walked away from this before. Why are we doing like all this negativity and little thoughts that you can get? Were there
Yeah,
any tools or
I,
tips that helped you?
I think was thinking of the goal, of the end game.
Hmm.
So it was not that was the goal. I never had a goal of being in Singapore or even in Dubai. I always
Right.
wanted to have an international career. Okay, so when those opportunities came up, they were taking me steps closer to my goal. And
Mm.
when that made sense, it's like it's like a play. Sometimes when you're playing a game, you kick the ball a little bit back or a little bit to the side, so you can get past an adversary who's in front of you.
So it was strategy.
And
It was complete
it was a
strategy.
strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm a strategist by heart. So it's like, okay, what is the end game? The end game is to develop an international career as a well-regarded business executive. Is that going to take me forward? Okay, because even in startups, I never dreamed of being a founder, but because startups are such a strong influence in the subject matter of innovation management, and corporations want to check as startups, they want to do ventures, they want to be
Mm.
more innovative, more agile. I wanted to learn that, so that would take me somewhere.
Right. So it was all part of the plan.
It's part of the plan. Yeah, it's part of this journey. So when you keep your eyes on the prize, you can take the
Mm.
pain,
Mm.
you know. And I'm not saying it was terrible, like by any means. Like the company that I worked in Brazil and I worked in Singapore, it's a great company. I don't want to say anything. It was just how I was feeling about working so long for one. Sorry for this.
That's
Working so long for the same company and in the same city, had lots of things that were about me, not about the company or the industry, but just like this thing that I had to face about going back to the same industry in the same company, but I was with a different team in a different region with a different boss. So there were lots of things that were super exciting about going there.
Mm.
And if I could have Brazil, Australia, Silicon Valley, and Singapore under my belt, those were amazing things to have.
Which was your favorite? Tough
Oh,
question.
that's such a hard question. Everybody asks me that, Tim. Everybody. It's so hard because
Yeah.
all of them had a moment in my life
Yeah.
and had a circumstance.
Mm.
So I loved California for the community, for the weather. It's an amazing place to live. Super expensive. I've always lived in expensive cities. I don't know what it is that I think I like to be poor, because I go to a city to waste all my money. I don't know what it is. You know, but I lived in São Paulo, I lived in San Francisco, I lived in Singapore, and now in Dubai. So, so expensive cities. But I think each of them had their moments and their plus and minuses. So California, like I said, the weather, the community, the ethos around innovation, around the transformation, about writing and designing the future.
Hmm.
Okay. Then you go to Singapore, and I see a city that in less than 50 years went from a fisherman's village to one of the most important cities in the world, and that is developed, organized, clean, safe, amazing mix of culture and food. And but the weather is not amazing because it's hot and humid all the time, as you know. But it has this thing about we say it's Asia for beginners, right? So it has this flavor of Asia, but it's so quite embracing of international people, of expats. And then I moved to Dubai, and I first came here in July in Dubai, and that's the height of summer.
Oof.
And it was hot, 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 and humid. I hated Dubai, but I loved the idea of being a little bit closer to Brazil than Singapore, of changing industries, because when I moved to Dubai, I came to work for EY. So I got out of the financial sector and went into the professional services industry. So I wanted that. I wanted to work for a different company. So I changed professional brands as well. And also I could have Dubai under my belt. And I learned to love the city. I absolutely learned to love. It's also organized, clean, safe, respectful, and a great city to raise a family and to be very, very good life quality here. So all of them, they had their moment in my life. So yeah, very long answer to just to say I don't know.
No, I love it. They're each a chapter. They've each got a certain flavor, and they've added growth and lessons and fun to your life.
Yeah.
I guess like something that you just said around startups and the corporate world and corporates wanting to learn from startups and then bring that in house. I'd be really interested to hear about what mistakes corporates make and why innovation is so important to try and help them through this kind of maze.
Okay. Yeah. So I think there are a few mistakes. I'm trying to see if I can point out the ones that I think are more relevant. Okay. One of the things that is really different on the ways that a corporation and startups approach is how they structure for focus. So when you have a startup, when I had my first startup or my second one, it was like me and my co-founders, a group of 3 to 5 people, like I said, that their day jobs is to make that idea happen. So I like to say that a startup is a love story between an idea and a business model. So it's an idea trying to find the ideal business model to get married to, because that's when the idea comes to life. Okay. If you don't find a business model, then your idea doesn't have a reason to exist. So when you have a startup, you have 5 people trying to find that, to find the product market fit, to find the perfect way to monetize that idea, to put a business model around that vision. In a corporation, a lot of times that what happens is that one of the leaders on the C-suite will have an idea, will say, oh, we have to have an innovation hub, or we have to have an innovation team, or we have to have a think tank. And then they're going to pick up 2 or 3 or 5 or 4 smart people, and they're going to say, okay, the 3 of you are going to be our innovation think tank. And then you say, okay, so is that my day job? No. You're going to do that on your spare time. But what resources do I have? No. You got to be scrappy. Come on, innovation, you got to be scrappy. Like a founder, you got to bootstrap. But on the other side, the founders, they're looking for investors. And then the startup, the entrepreneurs, so let's talk about the intrapreneurs and the entrepreneurs. So the entrepreneurs are inside the company. The entrepreneur will get to the boss and say, okay, so I need $100,000 to put that idea forward. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Why do you need $100,000? Show me the business plan. And then the entrepreneur spends 3 months doing the business plan. And then it shows, and then they say, well, but show me the ROI, when I'm going to get return, how much, I have to double my money. I have to get $200,000 in 6 months, because those are the margins of our business. And then the entrepreneur goes back to the hamster wheel of trying to make a business case that works. At the end, 6 months down the line, the entrepreneur is tired and demotivated, has lost credibility with the C-suite, and the startup think tank, the innovation think tank dies. Right. Startups, on the other hand, they're going to have those 5 people. They're asking for investment. There is a whole structure also around investment. So you have the angels, you have the pre-seed, you have the seed, you have the series A, B, C, D, etc. So they go, like we went to a seed investor or to an angel investor and say, I have this idea. Here's a team of 5 people who are interested in putting their efforts. We're going to take $1,000 or $2,000 of pay just to survive, but we need $100,000 to see us through the first 6 months. And because you have a culture and the structure around it, the investor goes there and gives you the money. Of course, there is scrutiny going forward, but there's much less scrutiny to give you the money, because if they understand that if they don't give you the money, you can't work. You can't put 2 or 3 months preparing a business case.
Yes.
That everybody knows it's not true. Okay. And there's another thing. You have those 5 people whose day job is to make that startup happen. So they're putting at least 40 hours a week, normally north of 60, 80, 100 hours a week.
Wow.
Okay. We work really hard. We sleep at the job. We sleep under tables. Okay. You set up your own office. So the first accelerator program that I went, they brought in IKEA furniture and they said, okay, here are the boxes, assemble your desk.
It's building yourself. Everything is
you build it yourself. There was no proper internet, and then you get scrappy, but you have some backing. You get scrappy, but you have those 100 hours per week per person. So imagine, like the first week, we're putting 500 hours. If you have somebody whose day job is to do something else, all their incentives, all they're measured by are doing their day job, and you ask them to put 2 hours a week, at the end of the first week, those people have put together 10 hours versus 500 hours.
Such a huge.
And then people are surprised why corporate innovation programs fail.
Penny drop moment right there. That is, that's so clear. 500 versus 10 hours. And
they're not functioning as startups. They want to have all the benefits of startups without any of the pain, and go back to work hard, play hard. You got to work hard, and then you get the benefit. You got to seed, you got to plant the seed, you got to water the seed, you got to fertilize the seed before you have fruits. And that's what you have in a startup that usually you don't have on corporate innovation programs that fail. And that's the approach that I try to bring. So in my team, myself and the 4 people, so we're 5 people, similar to a startup, we are 100% dedicated to innovating EY. Our day job is the transformation of EY. It's not our side hustle. It's our day job. And all our incentives are aligned to achieving that goal.
That sounds so cool. That's it. Yeah.
It is so cool. I create my own job.
That sounds awesome. Yeah. So just in that piece, you talked around structure and how that is so important, the alignment around what you're doing to actually, you see, how does that work then with the hours, the 500 hours? And how would you apply that within EY? Or are you bringing the models from startups, the different techniques and models that you've learned, and then accelerating EY internally in that way?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. So first is myself and my team, we're fully dedicated. So how many hours we need to work, we're going to work. Okay. And also we work with other teams, and we work with this idea of, I always talk about the sense of, with a startup, you have an idea trying to find a viable business model. So in the beginning, you have a lot of uncertainty and you have zero money. So you need to start increasing the investment as you decrease the uncertainty. Another mistake that happens when corporations are trying to innovate is that because they've asked the bloody entrepreneur to go do a business case, he's going to show that there is a market potential of $400 billion. And then to capture that market potential, they need $4 million to invest. okay, because they're going to capture. So they keep doing this crazy mathematics at such an early stage when the uncertainty is so high that none of the premises that they have there, none like the assumption they have there, none of this is going to be true, okay? But they're trying to fool them. They're trying to fool their bosses unconsciously because this is getting on the hamster wheel of the business plan, okay? That they ask for too much. And then when somebody buys it, they say, okay, here's $4 million. And then the thing fails because you put so much money with so much uncertainty, with the lack of process, that a lot of projects become too big to fail. You know, and then because they're too big to fail, when they go wrong, and it's gonna go wrong, it is by definition gonna go wrong. That's why you need to invest a little bit to learn what is the wrong way, so you get out of there. And then you invest a little bit more to learn the next wrong way to get out of there. So you're not trying to find the right way. You're trying to avoid the wrong ways.
Got it. And you're doing it in increments.
You're doing an increment. So you say, give me $5,000. I'm going to, okay, I'll give you an example. One day I was working in Singapore, and we're talking too much business here. I don't know if this is what you want on the podcast, but like I said, it's a big part of who I am and of my life and my ideas. But I was working in Singapore in the financial sector, and we had this idea for a product that would help poor people, unbanked people, to get credit, because our core assumption was that unbanked people needed and wanted credit from a bank. But the bank couldn't give them credit because the bank didn't have information about them because they are unbanked. So I was in Singapore when I did this project, and then I said, okay, I need $5,000 myself and a colleague. We're going to travel to Jakarta, and we're going to do field research. Nobody had done that before, because the way corporations develop, they say, okay, so tell me how much you need to develop this product that will enable poor people to get credit. And I said, what's the core assumption? Is that poor people want credit. Okay, let's go to Jakarta, which was the market that we were targeting. We went on the outskirts of Jakarta. I don't know if you've been to Jakarta, but it's a very big, and it can be very, the social inequality there is huge. So we went to the outskirts of the public markets with an interpreter, because we couldn't assume anybody was going to speak English, and I don't speak any Indonesian. Then we went to the market and we started talking to people. Tell me a little bit about your life, about your business. You're selling knockoff t-shirts here, or shoes, or you're selling fabric here, or dresses. Tell me about your life. Tell me about your business. Where do you get money to buy fabric to make the t-shirt? Okay. So when you buy the fabric, the supplier of the fabric gives you 90 days to pay for the fabric. Then you do the t-shirts. And how long does it take you to sell? Oh, you sell in a week, and you have to pay your seamstress in another week. So what we found out is that they didn't need credit, because there was a whole internal credit system going on, starting from the suppliers. And then when we asked them, okay, would you like to get credit from a bank? They're like, no, too complicated.
So they'd already figured it out.
With $5,000 and 2 days of work of 2 people, we completely brought down the core assumption of a product that we wanted to create.
For $5,000, yeah.
For $5,000.
Yeah.
Not millions. And then you go back to the drawing board, and you say, okay, I'm not going to go on this path. I think we have to go in this direction. Now give me $10,000. Now I'm going to do something else. Now give me 50. Now give me 500, you know? And then you incrementally decrease in uncertainty and increase your investment. And I don't remember what question you had anymore. I don't know if I answered it.
Well, I think the whole conversation really started around the differences between startups and corporate world, and what corporates are trying to get off startups. And you've definitely demystified it for me, and that's been great, because I'd always kind of wondered, because there are so many corporates creating either ventures internally or even putting investment into startups to get the learnings, but you've completely demystified how that can go wrong and how it needs to change as well. I'm keen to talk as well, because you've talk about your traveling experiences, because you did 8 or 9 years in the corporate world in Brazil, and then decided at some point enough was enough, and you were going to go on a sabbatical around the world to 27 countries.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So I'm gonna check my list here, but I traveled already to, I think it's 42 or 44. No, 44 countries. So the last country I've been to was Saudi Arabia. So I've been to 44 countries already, and a big incentive for me to travel anywhere is to go to a country I have never been, because I'm really fascinated by the planet and by the people and by the cultures and the languages and the things that are different and the things that are similar. I'm really fascinated about learning more about this world where we live in. And mind you that before I did this trip, I had been to like 5 countries. I had been to 5 countries in my life. Like one day I went to Europe, and that was it. And I really wanted to travel, and I really wanted to see the world. And there was one day that I was in Brazil, and I was trying to plan a vacation, and I couldn't choose the country because I really wanted to see different things. And I was trying to say, okay, where do I go next? And I had like Cuba and Netherlands and Australia and all of that. And then I happened to read this magazine, and there was this lady traveling the world working at a cruise ship. And then I came to my boyfriend at the time, and I said, how about we take a round the world trip? I think that's what I want to do. We take 1 year sabbatical and we go travel. And he's like, okay. I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. That's happening. And that was like December 2011. And then in February 2011, I bought the round the world ticket. There's something called the round the world ticket. So I bought it. And in July, we started traveling. And then we started in Portugal, crossed all Europe from Portugal to Russia, up Norway, down Turkey, then South Africa. We spent 1 month traveling for 7,000 kilometers in a truck and camping every day. So it was really, really intense. But I have a love for camping that comes from there. I went camping this weekend in some mountains here in the UAE, in a emirate called Ras Al Khaimah. And then I went to Australia, so to your home country. You're from Australia, right? No, you're not from Australia. From the UK.
I was in Australia.
You know my friend from Australia. Yes.
I'm making my way around the world as well.
Okay. Yes. I forgot that. So I went to Australia, where you lived there for 3 months, then did Southeast Asia, then China, and the last 2 months in the US in the Silicon Valley. So it was an incredible experience. It was an experience. It was hard. So it is hard work as well, because you have to shift your mind from being a tourist to being a traveler. And that's different, because when you're a tourist, remember that we talked in the beginning about like the having your eyes on the prize. When you're a tourist, the price is very close. It's like, I want to go to Bali and enjoy 1 week and then I'll come back. When you're a traveler, the prize is on the whole journey itself. It's on the experience itself. It's on the good things and the bad things, on the easy parts and the nice restaurants, but also on sometimes sleeping at a train station because you couldn't find a hotel, in Ukraine, and nobody can help you because nobody speaks your language and you don't speak Ukrainian.
Wow. Yeah.
So and all these hardships, they are part of the life, all the planning. So you know how stressful it can be to plan 1 week vacation. So I had that for 1 year. Every other day I had to plan the next step. So
it wasn't planned out. You sort of just went and you knew roughly where you wanted to go, but
you kind of know roughly, but things change. I was going to go to Perth and I ended up in Sydney, or in the Gold Coast. I was going to go to Japan. I went to Japan just for work after that. I was going to travel South America. I never did that, so there's lots of things that change because the circumstances change. So I believe planning is essential. Plans are useless. I don't know if it makes sense. So the process of planning is important because it gives you information. But the plan, it gives information pre-adventure, pre-work. So for example, this podcast, we planned, we talked before, you had some questions. You're probably not asking 80% of the questions you planned for. But as we prepared for this podcast, we got information that we needed to get the conversation flowing. Then life happens.
Then you're in, right? And then
then you're in.
This is traveling. This is traveling effectively. Yeah.
Exactly. So we were in where was it? In Italy, and then some friends said, "Do you want to come stay with us in France during the Bastille party in the beginning of the 14th of July?" I was like, "Of course." Hop on a plane, go to France, and forget Spain. So we didn't go to Spain, So there's this serendipity that happens that you got to be open to it. You cannot be stuck to a plan. Okay. And I don't know where we were anymore. We're talking about the traveling and this, but it was the most amazing experience. Yeah. So I was talking about the mindset of a traveler is like embracing the serendipity. So if you're in Bali for a week and somebody says, "Oh, can you next week go to the Komodo Island because there's going to be something happen?" And it's like, no, I have a plane to catch to go back home.
Yeah.
When you're a tourist, you're trying to see the sights. Oh, I did this, I did that, I did the Louvre, I did I did Versailles. Like you do the things. When you're a traveler, you're living there. So sometimes like, I know when we were in the Loire Valley with all the castles, there was one day that we sat down and it was like, we don't want to see castles anymore. Please don't go. Let's not go to a castle. What we wanted to do was to buy some food, bring back to the cottage where we were staying, and cook and do laundry.
Right.
Because that was the life that we were living.
Yeah.
It was exhausting to be traveling for months on end. And people think, oh my gosh, it's a 1 year holiday. No, it's a 1 year of life on the road, but it continues to be life.
And do you found that you brought some of those lessons into your daily life now, into your work? Like that sounds like a very courageous thing to do, to press pause on the corporate world, go traveling, take a sabbatical. So where do you find courage right now?
Okay, so that's a lot of questions. So I do bring a lot of this to my life. I think the best that I bring is a little bit of knowledge of different cultures. So when I meet somebody from Russia, I can say hi in Russian. If I meet somebody from Turkey, I can say thank you in Turkish because I learned, and I can say something that connects me immediately with them, makes me less strange to them. So that's something that I bring. And about courage. So here's something, Tim, that I think it's really gave me freedom, was to understand that risk is different than fear.
How so?
Okay. A lot of times people conflate that. They like, I'm afraid of that, therefore this is a risk for me. Okay. And those things that are different. You can be afraid of things, although they're not too risky. But because of your fear, they seem too risky. So when you are on a roller coaster, you feel fear, but the risk is very little. It's more that it's designed to make you feel the emotion of fear, although 99.9% of the time you're very safe. Okay. So when people tell me about a lot of people, a lot of times they say, oh, I took 1 year sabbatical and I traveled the world. And like people, 98% of the time say, oh my gosh, I would love to do that. And I was like, okay, what's stopping you? And then people start, oh, because I have a job. Like, I had a job. Oh, but I have a dog. I had a dog, but I have children. I know people doing it with 3 children. I know people doing it with the dog, and I know people doing it with cars and bicycles, and I know people doing it. So what is actually stopping you? Oh, but I have to pay my bills. Again, what are the bills again? Because they are related to the life that you have. So there is no easy way. There's no way that you can travel the world and have the same life that you have. You gotta want the transformation of the life. The hard work and fun. Hard work comes first. You gotta be willing to do the transformation. But Tim, for people like us, okay, and I don't know who's listening to your podcast, so I don't want to make you lose listeners here. But for most of the people who are right now under a shelter with their phone, probably with their AirPods, listening to your podcast, they have clothes on their body, they have clean water, and they have food. The risks that they have are smaller than those of people with actual needs. Okay, so I'm not talking here about people with actual needs. I want to start this by acknowledging the immense privilege that I have for coming from a good family, not a rich family, but a good family, and having a good life. When I started having this idea of traveling around the world, I spoke to my dad, who is a great counselor of mine. And he said, and I remember one of the things that I wanted at the time was to have a child. So I wanted to get pregnant. And I was like, okay, I need to do this before I have a child. Okay, that's how I thought. I know people who done it with child and pregnant and all of that, but that's how I thought. And my dad said, okay, if this is what you want to do, you go do it. And if you need, I'm here to support you. Because I know you are a good daughter, you're a good professional, you are a good person. And if you want to go in this adventure, go now. Before you have a child, before life gets even more complicated, before you have an even bigger job that is harder to let go. If you want to go, go. And if you need, I'll support you. If my dad was my plan Z, okay? I had some savings, then I saved more. I took my savings, I sold everything I had. But at the end of the day, when we put together the round the world trip with the startup life in the US, money and I needed to resort to my dad and my mom. Okay, and I'm talking about my dad because my mom, she was afraid for me. She's like, but Paula, you're going to, they call me Paula, they don't call me MP. You're gonna destroy your career. She was really afraid. And I had such a certainty that whatever I was gonna learn through that time was just add to my life. It was gonna add to me as a human, as a professional, as a wife, as a mother. You know, I knew I was gonna get so much, you know, that helped me put the fear in perspective and really understand, like, okay, if I do this right and everything goes south, am I gonna starve? No. Am I gonna not have a shelter over my head? No. Do I want at 30 something to ask money for daddy? No, but I could. Do I want at 30 something to go back to live in daddy's and mommy's and daddy's house? No, but I could. So what is the risk here? What am I risking? You know? So when I put all of that in perspective, I could see that the fear was bigger than the risk. And that is the case to most people like us who have a life that is quite comfortable. And they are actually afraid of the discomfort. They're afraid not that they're going to destroy their careers, because I have not met one single world traveler who's destroyed their career. Quite the opposite.
It hasn't been a detriment. It's added much more flavor. So
Exactly.
what would you advise someone who is currently, what would your advice be to someone that's currently thinking through having that fear, has the fear, but wants
Yeah.
to come up with a strategy just like you've outlined?
Yeah, I would say do your do your research, because information leads to action. Information kills fear. Okay, fear thrives on assumptions, and
Mhm.
information destroys assumptions. So when I wanted to travel, I went out and I found groups of travelers who were having monthly meetings with other people who had traveled the world because they wanted to travel.
Mhm.
And then I became, I found books, I found communities. We didn't have lots of social network. That was back in 2012. So we had some, but not to the extent we have now. So we would go to live meetups, okay, and just get information. Just like, okay, how did you guys do it? Did you buy what kind of ticket? Oh, the round the world ticket.
Mm.
Okay, how much? How do you do it? Like, do you take lug a wheelie luggage with you? No, you do a backpack. What do you put in a backpack? And you know what, Tim? Specifically for the round the world tour, and I can tell your listeners, we spent less than $25,000 for that 1 year of traveling per person.
Wow. Yeah. And you got all of that
25,000
experience. Yeah.
all over. Okay, $5,000 on the round the world ticket, then $120 per day in budget for two people. That was for two people. Okay, so it's $50,000 in total.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 50 grand, but you got a year's worth of experience and lifestyle and living on the road.
Yes. Yes.
Incredible.
But
Incredible.
yeah, so people think like, oh, you gotta be a millionaire. No, you gotta let go of your luxuries. You have to let go of. I had to let go of makeup and heels and
Yep.
nice dresses. I had to let go of fashion. So one of my friends, she went to travel with us when we were in Russia, and mind you, that was like month 4, and we spent like 4 months in summer in Europe. When we got to Russia, it was cold. So I couldn't buy a lot of things because everything I bought I need to carry. So I started layering things up. And I was the most colorful person on the street because I had to layer like a pink shirt with a purple jacket and a green scarf, because those are the things that I had on if I look back, I would only have black and gray things, but that was not the reality for me at the time because I didn't think about fashion. And my friend makes fun of me to this day, like, MP, you were the most colorful person in Moscow, you know? And like, yeah, you do what I gotta do.
That the
But
same startup mentality. It's that hustling,
yeah,
that scrappiness that it gets you through.
and courage, team. So I think
Mm.
courage comes from information because that will destroy
So
fear.
is
But
the seeking of information through action? So you've got to take the
through
action to get the information,
exactly,
and once you take the
exactly.
action, the information relieves the fear because it informs, and then the fear sort of dissipates.
Yeah, it breaks the assumptions. So first
Breaks the
assumption,
assumption.
oh, it's very expensive. Okay. Second assumption, I'm going to destroy my career. Third assumption, I would never be able to replenish my savings again.
So
Fourth assumption, it's going to be dangerous.
these assumptions are in our heads, and not all the time
Yeah.
we consciously recognize that they're there, but through seeking information, it can quieten the voices and you start to see the path.
Yeah. And you say we recognize they're there. A lot of times we don't,
Mm.
because those are all unconscious. Those are all excuses we hear and we assume as uh, 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 through, but we don't consider them as assumptions that can be proven or disproven. So all of these assumptions, like, oh, it's dangerous, or I'm a woman, I'm going to get raped,
Mm.
like there's all these things that once you start so I think the first step is mindfulness around, okay, I want to do that. What are the assumptions that are preventing me from doing it? So let me find information. Second is, what is the shit sandwich? Going back all the way to the beginning of the conversation, what's the shit sandwich I'm willing to do? Okay, so I'll give you another example. I went camping this weekend. Okay, it's the third time I go camping here. So once I went camping on the dunes, the other way in what used to be a river bed, and now on the mountains. None of those places have any infrastructure. They don't have bathroom or anything like that. Okay, when you have to do your business in the dunes, it's not fun. Okay, not fun at all, but it's part of the adventure. And it's a part of the adventure that I am willing to take, because I don't expect to be glamping. I don't expect to arrive there and everything is set up for me and there's a bathroom and there's a shower. No, I expect that I have to do my business behind a rock or in the dunes, that I have to set up my tent, that I have to fight with my son because he wants to play in the tent when it's not time to play in the tent, like happened this weekend. So I expect that. So I know the shit I'm willing to deal with. I was talking to my friend, and he's an older guy, and he's like, I'm not doing my business in the dunes in this lifetime, ever. Like, I'm not doing that. I was like, okay, that's fine. But don't envy or don't expect that you can get the desert experience or the camping experience without that part. Okay? Because you lose something. There's something like more authentic about this experiences that comes with the hardship, you know? So let's go back to the courage framework that I'm inventing right now with you. Okay?
Take us back.
Yeah, understand your fears. How far along are we? Understand your fears. Jot them down on paper. Understand that they come from assumptions. So what are the assumptions? Find information that can prove or disprove those assumptions. Okay? Then understand what is going to be hard about it, and if you're willing to deal with the hardship. One surprising hardship of traveling for an year is that you don't get to come home for 1 year.
Yeah.
You don't get to sleep in your bed. So, you know, when you're traveling, and even if you go to the most amazing hotel, you have that nice feeling of, okay, I'm back. 10 days later, I'm back and I'm going to sleep in my bed. And I have my clothes.
Depends on the hotel, but yeah, it does happen. Yeah.
Well, but you almost always when you take a vacation, you have that good feeling of coming back. I didn't have that for 1 year.
Yes.
You know? And you got to learn, like, you're not coming back. So the first month, that's when it hits you. It's like, ooh, we still have 11 to go. And we're not going back home. So that's the transformation of the tourist mindset and the traveler mindset. You got to travel different, because if you're trying to hit all the venues in every city, you're going to drop that in a week, you know? So you got to pace yourself. So then the courage framework, okay? You got to know what you're willing to go through and be at peace with it, and understand that is part of the experience. And I think the last part is, with the planning, with the information, is, am I going to really be in a horrible place in my life if all goes south? So if you want to change job, okay, and you are talking to your spouse and you're like, oh my gosh, this job is making me miserable, I really want to change, but if I do that, I'm afraid I will not be able to pay for the kids' school. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's get information. Okay, do we need to send the kids to this school? Can we rethink that? Can we save for 2 years before I can jump ship and go do this other venture? Okay, I'm not telling people like, okay, just walk off your desks right now, kick everything up and go follow your passion. No, I'm telling you, be a strategist about it. Okay, it took me years thinking about traveling and having an international career, and then 6 months of planning. It took me 6 months from December to July to plan and to save and to prepare for this trip and to get all the information and to deal with the fear. Okay, fear
Right.
is a protective emotion, but a lot of times it protects you from ghosts, from monsters,
Mm.
and monsters don't exist.
Keeping you in position where you don't need to be held in position. Right.
Exactly. But you got to understand, you got to get out of autopilot and look at your goal, either it be starting a family, getting a divorce, traveling the world, starting a new job, leaving your job, traveling somewhere, marrying somebody, meeting somebody. All of that, there's all this components of fear of monsters, you
Mm.
know? So when you take a step back and you're very conscious about your fears, they start, it's like ghosts. If you look, okay, so in the camping this week, my friends put some chairs up and I went to use the bathroom behind the car at 2 a.m. And then I looked around and there was this like huge thing and my dog was with me and then she started barking at 2 a.m. in the camping. And I wanted to kill her, but I was like, what is that? You know, if I didn't go check, I would go back to the tent terrified. So I walked on the corner, and then when I got closer, it was just a bunch of chairs,
Yeah. Wow.
you know. And so I think that's where courage comes from. Courage doesn't come from being reckless. Courage doesn't come from being careless and not giving a shit. It comes for giving lots of shit, but trying to find the ones that matter.
Mm. I like that, being a strategist and actually being comfortable with the transformation, and then
Yeah,
planning. Your planning took 6 months to
yeah,
dispel the fears and to actually work through, okay, what would happen if this happens, and what happens if this happens, and how can we, like you said with the school example, how do we have to go to that school? Are we wedded to that idea? Why are we wedded to that idea? Can we change it? And that by
yeah,
doing that and by having that courageous mindset and taking the action and getting the information, you can work yourself through. And I love this piece about getting rid of the assumptions that we do or do not, like the stuff we don't even know we have going on that's holding us
yeah,
back from our goals, dreams, and vision. That is huge.
yeah, yeah.
What do you think your mission is in life then? What would you say your mission is?
Oh gosh, that's a loaded question because so so I think on a personal note is being a good human being, being a good person, being a person that has a positive. I think impact is an important word for me. Uh, I don't want to go through life being lukewarm, being like, was she here? I don't remember, you know. So like I want to, but it's not about like the limelight. It's about really touching people and helping people. And so, for example, right now I'm fostering a dog. My life is super complex, like I'm a single parent. I live, so my son's father lives in Brazil, so there's no logistic support there. And I have a big job, and I have my son, and I have my dog. But there was this family, the parent, the two guys, the couple, they lost their jobs, and they were staying on the street because they wouldn't let go of their dog,
What?
you
Yeah,
know, because they couldn't find, because hotels in Dubai are not dog friendly.
I see.
Okay. And then I said, I'll take the dog. Like I'm fostering the dog. And that for me, like they are super grateful to me, but I'm super grateful to life for the opportunity
That's so
of
cool.
helping, So whenever I can help somebody, with those little things, you know, I
Mm.
feel so grateful for the opportunity of exercising my humanity. Okay. So that is one. Professionally speaking, my mission is to create impact for the companies that I work for, to ensure that they are they have what I call the innovation muscles. So they are strong enough to withstand and to thrive through change. And a very important mission for me is as a mom to Noah, which is
Mm.
to raise him to be a decent human. You know, I don't have
Mm.
huge aspirations for him. Like, I have zero control of what he will want to be in his life. I have no intentions of having control of like what kind of career he's gonna have, what kind of education he's gonna pursue and work, and what he's gonna do with his life. But I want him to be a human being, to be a decent person, to be a force for good, you know, and to have his own little impact in life the way that he wants to be. So I think those are the three parts that kind of form
That's
my
awesome.
mission.
That's so awesome. That's yeah, your son. So how has it been having like being a solo parent and kind of an ambitious career go-getter as well as fostering a dog now as well as having countries and having a
Yeah.
solo parent like how have you managed that?
Um, so I'm fostering one dog, but I already have another one that traveled the world
Right.
with me.
You've
Well,
got
she didn't go in the round the world tour,
right.
but she moved to US, Singapore, and here.
Very well trained
So
dog.
very well traveled dog. Uh, so being a single parent is always hard because I think uh, God and nature and life made two grown-ups to take care of one child because it's so hard. It's so hard. You need two grown-ups. You need two adults. You need to take turns. You need to support each other. But unfortunately, that's not what happened in my marriage. We ended up getting divorced, which was a super difficult thing to happen. Um, but I really like the life that we have in Dubai. I like the opportunities that this is bringing to Noah. I like the education that he has. I like that he's grown up. So Noah himself has been to 10 countries already. And
Blimey.
he's not going to remember all of those because he's been to countries when he was a baby. But that is somehow ingrained in his
Mm,
mind. I
mm,
don't have to teach my son what diversity is
mm,
because he studies in a
mm,
diverse class. He lives in a diverse world. There's no there's no one single color or one single language or one single culture in his life. You know, I don't have to teach him about tolerance, about religious understanding and coexistence. Nothing. This is his life, and
mm,
those are values that are so important to me and to his father as well. That life here makes sense, although it's hard. His father is a super present father. Virtually now with Corona, it has been such a pity that we didn't get to travel back to Brazil one single time this year, but that's because of the circumstances. Uh, but it's hard. It's I think that's the word I said the most in this podcast because and not in a complaining side. Like
mm.
if I wanted it easy, I would move back to Brazil. But I'll tell you what, after a month of having it easy, the hardships of life there would show up as well. And
Yeah.
it would be hard again. It would be hard to live close to my parents because we're bickering all the time,
Yeah.
or because the country doesn't have the education that I have here. Like so it's not supposed to be easy. That's what I'm trying to say here. I think if there's anything people are getting from this from my message is like it's not supposed to be easy. So you got to deal with it. You know. So being a single parent is it's not easy, and I don't expect it to be. But it's a joy being a parent. Most of the time, is a pain in the ass sometimes. You know, uh, and,
I
and
do.
and that's the reality. That's the reality of everything, and everything comes in combos. You don't get to choose all the flavors. There's something that I said before, Tim. And I would like to repeat here is we are not think of life as a movie. We're not the directors. We sometimes have the illusion to be, but we're not. Okay, we life, God, universe, providence, whatever. Okay, I'm not here trying to be religious or anything, but just to understand that things go in the way that they need to go, which is not the way that we want them to go most of the time. But what we are and what we can choose to be is to be the protagonists of our life, to be the leading actor. And you're given a role, and it's your choice how you're going to play that role. If you're going to play it half-assed, it's your choice. If you're going to play it as your life depends on it, it's your choice as well. You know? So this is the choice that you have, is how you deal with it. And although my life is quite complex and I have a career and I have a big job that I love, those are my choices. And I know that. So another thing is, like, there's no choice without gain. There's no choice without losses. You got to understand, like, for me to work as much as I work, I have to have my child in school. Other families are homeschooling their children, or other mothers are staying at home moms. I can't be a staying at home mom. That's not the choice for me. That's not the role that I want to play in life. And that's my choice. And I know I'm not present in every single moment of my son's life, but I know I'm very present in making the moments where I'm present to be the ones that matter. The other day, both of us put his underwear on our heads, okay? And we were playing with the legs of the underwear up. We were playing like we had horns. And we were running around the house pretending to be bulls and, like, trying to stick our horns in each other. You know, like, and it was such a joyful moment. And it was such a silly moment to have underwears in our heads and to run and to just live that magical moment where, with our imagination, we were the bulls and we were fighting each other, you know. And I have the silly moments with him. But I do have the moments when I say, Noah, you're going to stay out. I'm going to lock the door. I'm going to record a podcast with him, you know, or I'm going to do my work. And I also want him to see that. I want him to get my work ethic. I want him to understand the value of work and the value of creating something and having a purpose and just be a functioning member of society that is contributing to a better life to us and to other people and to the world.
That's fabulous. I mean, what's shining through to me, MP, is just how possible you make things, how you look at a situation, a challenge, some hardship, adversity, but you see possibility within that and you find ways to move around it, to go under it, to go around it, to go, what can we do to move through this? So I'm just getting this massive sense of possibility from you, and it's absolutely phenomenal. Like, it's just awash with all of that buzzing around, and I'm sure the listeners are going to also feel that as well. I think as you're a very, very busy woman as well, need to wrap this up very soon. With the last question then, what do you feel is the single biggest driver of success?
I think it's showing up.
Showing up.
You know, showing up. It's because you're going to see people who have everything to succeed and they don't. And you're going to see people who have nothing to succeed and they do. And the difference is in this attitude, is in seeing the art of the possible. And even when it's impossible, you go there and you show up and you do your part and you deal with the hard parts and you deal with the shit and you're just there. Like, you're showing up and life is punching you in the face and you're showing up and life is throwing you in the corner, you're not showing up. Because if you show up, then you're lost. Okay? Then you don't succeed. So I think it's just this choice of being out there, of waking up, dusting off the dust of your body, now shaking it off, and just say, hey, okay, show more. Like, what can I do? I'm not gonna lay on the corner. Of course, you can dodge bullets all the time. I'm not telling people to just go for the hard part. It's like, but it's go through the hard part, and it's not like to be silly and to to be stupid and like, oh, MP told me to jump from a cliff. No, I didn't, you know. But if you're looking at a cliff, learn to climb, you know, because then you can walk and down. So you look at the possibilities and you are open to whatever comes, but you're showing off.
I love it.
Showing up, sorry, showing up, not showing up.
Showing up, showing up. Yeah, no, I love
Yeah.
it. That's it. Oh, well, MP, thank you. Thank you so much. It has been a blessing and an honor to have you
Thank
on the
you.
show. Honestly, you've given the listeners so much, all about being relentless. You've demystified what it means to bring a startup in-house into a corporate. You've talked about risk and fear and how they're not the same. You've given us endless. I mean, I want to take a sabbatical right now and go off and, you know, I've pretty much got to make a few calls after this and go around the world for a year. But I think it's just been amazing to have you shining your light on the podcast. And I know this is going to touch so many lives. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the invitation, team. It was a pleasure. It was very instigating and very interesting to dialogue with you. And if you want to do anything, if you want to do a round the world trip, just get information. Don't jump off the chair right now and go do it, because that is reckless and that is silly, and then you're going to find more hardship than you need. But if there's any change that you want to make in your life, just prepare for it, but don't let fear stop you before you show up.